Joey was the best referee in the world, period. I've never seen a referee ever as good as Joey. He was smart, really knew where to be, knew what his part was. Like when, I love a lot of the referees. They had some great referees over the years. Kyoto was a good referee. Both the Hebners were good referee, but Earl used to hate getting knocked down. Like if you had to do a spot where Earl had to get knocked down, Earl was one of those guys that got knocked down so many times that he got scared of getting hit. And so you'd have to go have a setup in the match where you got to drop down and the wrestler's going to run into Earl and knock him down. Earl would just move out of the way. It's like, Earl, you're supposed to get knocked down. It's like you moved out of the way. It's like, and then you keep having to figure out spots for the next 5 minutes, trying to figure out ways to knock the referee down for real. And, that's just kind of, and of course Earl would move again and move again and move again. But anyway, Joey was one of those guys that was never made a mistake in the ring. He was always focused and clear. He knew exactly what was going on, and he knew from talking to me that Davey was not all there. Davey was going to need a lot of help in this match. And I was, when we went in the ring, we didn't know how much time we had. I had at least a 35, 40-minute match in my head. I remember going, this is at least 40 minutes long, if I'm thinking this out right. And they're going, well, we're not sure. You might have 30 minutes airtime left. And I'm thinking 30 minutes airtime, that means they missed the ending. And it'll stink. That'll stink. I can't do that. So we had it where the referee would tell us, like, we had basically 30 seconds notice that you got to go home right now because the show, we're going off the air in 30 seconds. And I was so scared of that happening. Not scared, but, worried that was going to happen, that whole match is like a speed walk. We do every move as fast as we can. We go into the next move and the next move and the next move, and it's just a very thrilling pace that we both, which is why I appreciate how Davey pulled it all together that day. It was not an easy match to have, and it wasn't an easy pace to have, and Davey did rise to the occasion. And I just know that we got it all in, and that was I didn't have to edit anything out of the match. I was determined not to edit anything out. I wanted every single move, every single punch, every single, I reach up to grab his hair or whatever it is. Every single action in that match is plotted out and planned out and strategized as to why that move would be the perfect move to do right there. And if you ever watch that match, that's why I always go, it's the perfect match. And the only mistake in that whole match was when Bulldog picked me up for the big press slam and dropped me on the ropes, and he dropped me on the second rope. That was the only screw up in the whole match, other than a few stiff potatoes that Davey gave me, but or vice versa. But
you also mentioned in your book that Vince came up to you and said he didn't want to know the finish of the match, which is unheard of, really. Did that add more pressure to you, or did you take that as a compliment?
No, I knew. I tried to tell him because I was excited about it. This is the finish. This is going to be the best finish. And I remember telling him. And it's funny with the finish, the sunset flip where Davey hooks my legs and falls down. It was such a beautiful move. And I had it done in a match where I wrestled an old wrestler in Canada. And he told me, he goes, this is the best move ever. Like, do this for the finish. And it was a babyface match, kind of like Wembley. And I did it to beat him. And I remember when he told me about it, I was like, it's kind of flat, like a sunset flip, and like right on the finish, it's not going to work. And he goes, trust me. And I went out and wrestled him that night, and in Calgary, I won the North American title from a guy named Leo Burke. That was his finish. And I just remember going, that is a great finish. It's such a good finish, and no one sees it coming. It happens so fast, and there's no way out of it. Like once Davey pinned me to the mat, there's nothing anybody could do. There's no way to get out of it or kick out of it, or you're pinned, and that's it. That's the end of it. And I knew that would be the beautiful ending, that no one would see it coming. And so I knew that it was going to be a great finish. And I just remember when I tried to explain it to Vince, because I wanted him to hear what my great idea was, and he was like, "Don't tell me. I just want to watch it." And that was a big compliment to me. And I remember going, okay, well, you're going to be happy when you watch it because it's going to be really good. And it's funny, when I used to tag up with Jim Neidhart and the Hart Foundation, I can remember specifically one night with the Killer Bees where we were wrestling them, and it was Brian Blair, and I said, I have this move, because they were the Killer Bees were going to beat the Hart Foundation, and I said, I have an idea that I did in Calgary, and I said, go for a sunset flip, and you hook my legs and you collapse down on top of me and you pin me. And I remember Brian was like, it's kind of flat. And I go, it's not. It's a great move. And he didn't want to do it. And I remember then, that day, that was probably about 1986. I remember saying to myself, it's like, don't give somebody your great ideas. Take those ideas and put them in your pocket and keep them for yourself, which I recommend to any wrestler that comes up with a great idea. Put it in your pocket and don't tell anybody, because there's thieves everywhere that will steal your ideas. And, that's just the way the business goes. But the finish, I take a lot of pride in that finish. I don't know that it'll always probably be considered the Bret Hart finish at Wembley, but it was just the perfect move at the perfect time. And I think I love that about a lot of my matches. When I look back today, when I reflect, I like the pulling the match out of nowhere, and I don't like fans to. One of the things and maybe you fans feel the same way, but I hate to know what's going to happen before it happens. Like when I can predict, like, oh, he's going to move, and then he moves, I'm like, that's crap. When you can predict what's going to happen all the time, it's not very interesting. I think that's what I loved about my matches. I tried as much as possible to throw as many swerves in the match, like where you think this is going to happen, but something else happened. And that's the key to having a great wrestling match, is to keep constantly changing the directions.
And so, you've talked about all the work that goes into the match, everything that you've had to do to get it there. When that finish happens and the bell rings and 80,000 people go crazy for the finish, what do you remember feeling? Was it relief that you'd been able to see all your plans through? What was the feeling like when that bell rang?
I was just so glad that the bell didn't ring earlier. Like I was like, we got it done. We did it. And Davey did it. Like we did it. And it's done. And I was so proud of it. And, one of the little things, again, I guess this is all about my desire to tell a really good story. I guess, I'll take the compliment of that. A lot of people like Vince have even said to me that I was the best storyteller in wrestling, because I tried to be a really good storyteller. And with Davey, I had told him, I said, Davey, when you win, don't you leave the ring. And I said, I'm just going to sit on the ring and just be steaming mad, maybe even at myself. But I'm not going to get up, and I'm not going to leave the ring, but I'm just going to be pissed off, just sitting on my ass in the middle of the ring. I said, don't take your eyes off me. I want you to keep looking at me, just staring at me. And I want you to just keep looking at me and offering me your hand. Just keep offering me your hand, and I won't shake it. I won't even look at you. I'll look up and I'll being like, I'm too mad to shake your hand kind of thing. And I remember telling him, I said, Davey, if you do this right, it'll be the cherry on the cake. I said, I bet we can make 82,000 people start crying in the building. They'll start crying when we actually shake hands. And I remember I went through it with Davey, and when I went into the ring and we did the finish and everything, I remember I kept looking at Davey, looking at him to have that eye contact where like he's looking at me and just holding his hand out. And he did it a couple of times, but then he would look up at the fans, and then he would look at Diana, and it's like, Davey, look at me. I'm the guy you got to look at. And I remember he wouldn't look at me, and I finally got mad and walked over, and we hugged, and that was the end of it. But in hindsight, if you can just picture that match at the end of me and Davey looking at each other, and then when I get up to leave the ring, like I'm too pissed off to shake his hand, everybody be like, oh, you got to shake his hand. It was too beautiful a match. And and then I think about it, and then anyway, we eventually slowly come in and shake his hand. We could have made that whole 82,000 people just start bawling right there at Wembley Stadium. And I remember I tried so hard to, like, Davey, for God's sakes, just look me in the eye one time and lock eyes with me and let these people feel that emotion. between us, and then we shake hands. So it'll be unheralded. Like no one will ever top it. It'll be one of those beautiful memories that people will live for. And that was one of the few things we missed that day. That whenever I watch Wembley back, I go, we could have been just a hair better. And that's the storyteller in me.
And then you get backstage, and Ric Flair comes up to you, Macho Man, Shawn Michaels, everyone's praising the match.
No, that's not true. I come back to the dressing room, there's nobody there. Nobody. Everybody's got a bus back to the hotel. Like there's like 3 guys in the dressing room, and they didn't even watch my match. Nobody watched it. Nobody knew. I had Vince McMahon come up and tell me it was the greatest match in the history of wrestling, and that he thanked me so much and told me I was the greatest athlete that he'd ever seen wrestle, which it was a nice compliment. But no, I never got any praise. In fact, I was hoping for some kind of feedback from Kurt, or I have a lot of buddies back there would say, "Hey, that was a great match," but I didn't. Nobody was there. I went back to the hotel. Finally, went down to the bar. Even at the hotel after I wrestled, I felt like somebody had maybe thrown me out of an airplane or something. I was so beat up. My body was so sore. Everything hurt. It felt like I'd been caned. And I still went down to the bar, and I remember asking guys, like, "Did you see my match?" It's like, "No, I missed it. No, we had to go. The bus was leaving. Nobody saw it." I called home. My wife told me that she took all my kids and went over to her friend's house, and they missed my match. Like nobody watched. I remember it was kind of being really bummed out. Like nobody saw it, and nobody. Like I remember talking to guys in the bar, and it was just like nothing. Like they didn't even care. Nobody. I was like nobody. I knew. I was like nobody saw it. I know that if they saw it, they would come up and tell me I loved your match or something, but nobody saw it. So then we flew from England to Washington D.C. for the Monday tapings. I'm not sure if they were Monday Night Raw yet, but we had the TV tapings in Washington. And that's when I was in my room watching it I had a fan or a friend of mine had taped it and gave me the videotape and put a video machine in my room. And so I got to sit and watch it for the first time. And I was watching it in my room, and I was pretty pleased with how the camera work and everything went, and how it looked, and how solid it was, and it was just a beautiful story. And then I remember I had a knock on my door, and the first 2 guys that came to my door were Rick and Randy Savage, and they had been watching the whole pay-per-view on the pay-per-view in the hotel room, because you could watch it over again in the hotel room. And they got so jacked up and excited about my match that they came to my room and pounded on my door. And I remember Rick looking at me and goes, "I want to shake your hand." And Randy too. Randy shook my hand and said, "The greatest match I've ever seen." And Rick said the same thing to me. And then about 15 minutes after they left, Shawn Michaels came and knocked on my door, and he goes, "Unbelievable." He was like, "Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Best ever." And those are the 3 guys that I remember really. But within a day or 2 of that, everybody from Vince McMahon to everybody came up and was like, "You did it. That's the best match ever." And, I don't know that it was the best match ever. Everybody's got their favorites, but I think it was the greatest match I ever had up to that time anyway.
Because, a lot of people call you Mr. SummerSlam for all your great SummerSlam matches, and even BT Sport said that this match was the greatest match in SummerSlam history. Where does this match rank for you in your favorites?
Well, that's a hard one, because I like to think that telling a wrestling match, like my favorite matches are like my favorite songs. Like when you put a whole match together, like maybe the way Paul McCartney wrote a song for the Beatles or something, it's like that's his favorite song. I have so many favorite matches that I had with so many different wrestlers, but I would say my favorite match that I ever had was, like, just for everything that all went into it, and the timing and the emotion and the storytelling. I think my WrestleMania 13 match with Steve Austin was the best match I ever had. But I'd say maybe just a hair below that would be the Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was a fantastic, great wrestler and an incredible athlete, and I just know that the Iron Man match, I don't know that anybody will ever top that. If they do, I'd like to see it. That would be, to me, that was the hardest match I ever had, was the Iron Man match. And I'd say the Steve Austin one was actually one of my easiest matches, which is why I love it so much, because I remember when I got back to the dressing room, I was feeling pretty good. I almost could have gone out and wrestled again, but that was just two guys. That's two professional wrestlers, two of the best professional wrestlers working together to tell this incredible story. And, when you come back to the dressing room and no animals are harmed in the making of this movie kind of thing, it's like, when you're not injured or hurt, or you didn't have to kill yourself or fall through a table or something stupid, when you can just go out there and really tell a story with your bodies, and it doesn't have to be props or chairs or chains or, anything else. And, that's what I loved about the match with Steve and with Shawn. They were both just great stories. But I would put the Bulldog Wembley match, could easily be in front of those or right after that. Those are my three favorites of all time, those three matches. And I have a few others that are like 4, 5, 6, but they're all in the same group. I always loved my match with my brother Owen. That would have been 4. I absolutely loved my match with Undertaker, SummerSlam, when I won the title. Masterpiece. When I watch it back, I go, I wouldn't change one move. I wouldn't change one single flick of the eye or anything. It's like everything is perfect, and that's what I loved about Undertaker. He was just an absolute total pro in there. But there was quite a few other great matches that I had. But Kevin Nash Survivor Series would be another one that I was just a beautiful story and a great match. And anyway, those are the ones that come off the top of my head.